And so making two-stroke oil is really much more challenging than making four-stroke oil. Well, think of it right off the bat. What's one of the worst things that can happen to your four-stroke oil in your four-stroke engine?
It's gas in it.
Yeah. Oh my God, I got 2 quarts of gasoline in my oil. I'm going to have to condemn it and throw it out. But then I turn around and take gasoline and mix a small ratio of a lubricant in it and go, yep, good to go, going to protect all those moving parts, which are the same kind of moving parts I'm moving in that four-stroke engine, but all of a sudden I'm going to make an oil that I can purposely mix with gasoline, and it's actually going to lubricate these moving parts. So the old days, what they did is they took like a 40 weight oil and they mixed it at 16:1. So really what you had was a gas oil mixture, literally 16:1 mix, you know. That would be an ounce of oil in every pint of gasoline, okay? So it was pretty thickly mixed, and that wasn't the end of it. They loaded the oil that was the two-stroke oil up with gobs of zinc and phosphorus, hoping that if the zinc and phosphorus got on the walls of the moving parts, it would at least protect it from scuffing, from metal-to-metal contact. So that was the deal. Throw it in there and hope for the best, okay? And so early on, two-stroke engines sometimes had a tendency to wear out prematurely because they weren't very well protected. So we come along with these new oils, and he goes in here talking to them about what lubricity means and what we want to do. But really, what we have to rely upon is the oil film that is in the gasoline when it gets on the metal surface will have enough ability to prevent metal-to-metal contact. No different than any other lubricating application. It's just that it has to be able to do it and withstand the contamination, if you will, of gasoline, and do it at the same time. Now, two-stroke engines do require more anti-wear additive because it's real hard for that thin oil and gasoline mixture to actually keep those metal parts separated. So if I can get some zinc or some phosphorus on the surface of the metal, at least then when the metal tries to come together, it'll hit this sacrificial product of zinc or phosphorus and not go metal to metal. And by the time it comes back again, maybe I got more oil back on it. So it's just constantly fighting that battle. So you might ask yourself, knowing that, how do we make a low ash oil? You guys know the difference between low ash, no ash, and high ash? It's a real ashy world. No, here's the thing. Ash is the term used. If I take oil and I stick it in a burner and I just vaporize the oil off, right? What's left is called ash, and that ash that's left will not burn. It's metallic or mineral based, so phosphorus and zinc would be considered ash. So the old term they would use was that if I have an ashless oil, it means it has everything in that oil would actually burn. There'd be no residue left. It would burn up and leave no ash. So if I have metallic components in it like zinc, they're not going to burn. So they're going to be left. So that's, the old term was, that's called ash. Okay, they even use it in the diesel world. They could talk about low ash diesel oil. Okay, now, in these oils, to begin with, these two-stroke oils from AMSOIL are almost universally ester-based products. So just the oil itself is a tremendous lubricant because esters are sometimes used as additives in oil to improve the lubrication quality of oil. So by the fact that the base of the oil is primarily ester, it means I'm already starting out with a superior lubricant. And then, instead of putting metallic anti-wear, anti-scuffing additives in it, what we do is we put polymers. Polymers, that's right. Pieces of plastic.
Space-age polymers.
Yeah, they're polymers, space-age polymers. And what those polymers do is they get on the surface of the metal, and when the two pieces of the metal come together, they hit polymer to polymer, and they don't go metal to metal, and they don't stick. But the great thing about the polymers are, the ones that aren't stuck on the surface of the metal, that are out in the open in the combustion process, they burn just like that. And they leave no ash. So I got a product that I've designed that has higher natural film strength because of its base stock, which is primarily esters. Then I put a polymer in it rather than metallic additives so that the polymers burn off easily. It's called clean running. And so then what happens? I look inside the cylinder where I've been running this synthetic AMSOIL two-stroke oil. There's not a lot of carbon buildup at all. And the reason is carbon is attracted and sticks to the residual zinc that was left from the oil. So when the zinc gets stuck around like you want it to, it's got to get stuck on there to protect the metal. But it makes a really nice place for the carbon particles to stick to. So carbon starts building up on the zinc. And I throw more zinc on that, more carbon on that. I'm just building like beeswax building up. And it really does. So now I come along with this really super burning oil that has excellent anti-scuffing capacity with the polymers that are in it, burns clean as a whistle. Now, if you talk to Rob Gina over at Boat Wrench, the guy that I deal with all the time, he'll tell you the engines that he gets in that he has to open up that have been running AMSOIL two-stroke oil in them, they look almost brand new. There's hardly any residual of anything. You know, the engines that he gets in that are running standard petroleum two-strokes, first thing he has to do is decarbon them. And by the way, power foam is one of the best decarboning agents there is, because they will be so choked up that the exhaust ports coming out of those engines are half the size they're supposed to be. So in a two-stroke engine, when you can't get air to go out, the exhaust to go out, you don't suck in as much new air. So you can imagine if 10% of the old exhaust doesn't get out, I only brought in 90% new air, I have 90% power. So if I got a 100 horsepower motor, I just lost 10 horsepower because I can't get the exhaust out. So the proficient thing to do with motors they used to do in the past, when you brought it in for an annual service, for a guy that used a two-stroke motor quite a lot, the boat repair shop said, okay, we need to decarbon the engine and do all this stuff because that's what they're doing, cleaning it out. It was a standard procedure. You run these high-performance two-stroke oils that AMSOIL has, and the cleaning is virtually unnecessary, and you don't end up with stuck rings. You end up with a very, very clean inside of the engine. Now, AMSOIL has a test they ran, and they'll produce it when they finish off dot all the I's and cross all the T's on a comparison using the XD100, I think it is, the Evinrude E-Tech oil from the factory versus the AMSOIL HP injector oil. And without getting into the details or trying to get down under their report, just let me tell you this, you cannot tell the difference. That's what it comes down to. You cannot tell the difference in which oil was used in which engine when you do all of the certifying tests, when you have these engine testers and guys that tear it down and do that. So, point being, the biggest difference between the AMSOIL HP injector oil and Evinrude E-Tech XD100 is cost. those full synthetics for like the E-Tech, we're talking about an oil that today is probably running close to $50 a gallon, okay? And so you can run HP injector oil even at its retail price for, you know, what is it, Judy, I think $32, $34 a gallon or something retail, okay? So there's just no comparison in cost, and you cannot physically tell the difference in those two oils that are running the engine. Now that would say that quite frankly, we would have to agree, Evinrude's gone out and got somebody to make them a very good quart of oil. No doubt about it. So we won't argue that point. We'll just say that, look, you don't lose an iota by using HP injector oil, and you save yourself a bundle of money. You got it. So if you know anybody that's got boats, and these Evinrude E-Techs are super engines, they're moving across the boat community at a pretty good rate because, guess what? You get a 220 horsepower Evinrude E-Tech and compare it to a 220 horsepower V6 Johnson with carburetors, it only uses about 45% of the fuel that the Johnson carbureted engine used. So you can imagine people that boat a lot, why they're moving to these direct injected two-stroke engines. They want to actually be able to go out and not spend $200 on fuel for the day, you know. So, all right. So that's, anybody got questions on two-strokes? It's a good market, guys. If you really get a chance, you have to ask questions in that two-stroke area and get some people to take a chance on it, because it is by far two-stroke oils are one of the hardest things to manufacture and do right to really make the engines last, and you will get what you paid for in two-stroke oils. If you're buying it at the local supermarket, well, you'll need to be able to save some money because you're going to have a big repair bill coming down the road. So, all right.